Chapter 11. The Market, Monster Cores. In the Docha mainland, they are also known as magic crystals. The monster core is the energy nuclei within a magic monster. The monster core is filled with extremely violent world energy. When facing this kind of violent world energy, even a Do Wong wouldn't risk absorbing a monster core. Even though monster cores cannot be absorbed directly, it is a core ingredient in alchemy. A monster core that goes through an alchemist's refining can be infused with some herbs to become desirable and expensive pills that can increase one's strength. Furthermore, monster cores can be placed on weapons. The weapon that has been fused with a monster core does not only have increased destructive power, it can also have special Docha effects and becomes a highly sought-after commodity in the Docha mainland. Besides weapons, monster cores can also be added to armors and defensive equipment. The defensive equipment that have monster cores have an extreme defense and give their users an extra safety net when they're in danger. With that many uses, monster cores are naturally the most sought-after items within the Docha mainland. Not only dojas, but even respectable alchemists search in person for high-level monster cores in order to create higher quality level pills. Under such demand, the supply for monster cores on the mainland is always unable to meet the demand from the buyers. Thus, whenever a high-level core appears in any auction or other setting, it was bought immediately at a high price. Because of the high value of monster cores, many mercenary groups specialize in killing magic monsters for a living, but getting a monster core is not a simple task. First, magic monsters are not only extremely strong but also very cunning. Because of their devious nature and special attacking methods, magical beasts can be much stronger than humans of the same rank. Hence, without outstanding power of your own, trying to kill a magical beast on your own is impossible and may possibly lose your life without getting a magical core. Even if you do kill a magic beast, not all magical beasts possess a magic core. The probability of a magical beast having a core is almost random, so a mercenary group could have half of their force killed trying to kill a magic monster and yet not find a core. These kinds of incidents happen all the time in Docha mainland. Thus the price of monster cores in Docha mainland are all very expensive. Bringing Zuna through twisting alleys, Ziyan finally arrives at a market that's slightly south in the city. In Wutang City there are a few medium-sized markets, and all of them are controlled by one of the three clans. The market Ziyan is going in is under Z Clan's control. Even though it's under Z Clan's control, Z Clan is actually only maintaining order and safety in the market. And for compensation, be it mercenaries or merchants who set up stalls, they have to pay taxes to the clan. This is the rule of Docha mainland for a long time and rarely anybody would try to go against it. At the front entrance of the market, there were two guards from Z Clan. They undoubtedly knew Ziyan and Zuna. Judging from when the guards saw them coming, the guards paused and immediately bowed. Slightly nodding his head, Ziyan walked inside and looking at the never-ending stream of people, he couldn't help himself from licking his lips. No wonder the clan keeps the market under strict control. With this many people visiting the market, the profits for the clan can't be low. Third young master, Miss Zuna, would you like to buy something in the market? Right when the two were dizzy looking at the sheer number of people, a respectful voice sounded behind them. Hearing the sound, Ziyan turned his head. Behind him were 7 to 8 guys that were wearing the Z Clan's uniform. The speaker appeared to be a 30-years-old mature man, wearing a badge with 6 gold stars. He is obviously a 6-star doji. Noticing the doubt in Ziyan's eyes, the man honestly smiled and said, "Third young master, I'm called Payan. The clan leader appointed me to be the leader of the guards for maintaining safety in the market. Last year during young master's birthday, Payan came." "Oh, it's Uncle Payan." Ziyan blinked, and even though he does not have any impression of Payan, his introduction made Ziyan smile. Since the man was personally appointed by his father, he would naturally be his subordinate. There would be no issues with loyalty. Even though the Z Clan wasn't some big and influential force, the clan was divided into different factions. If the man standing in front of him was under the control of the elders, he would have never been so kind and would have just said some customary greetings. "I was bored in the clan, so I decided to come out and look around. Uncle Payan, you should go and do your work. If I have any questions, I'll be sure to ask you." Ziyan's young voice didn't have any hints of arrogance that a normal young master might have. Instead, His voice was soft and respectful. Anyone who heard it would feel a slight sense of pride and joy. With another uncle, the smile on Pei En's face widened and became more sincere. Nodding his head, he said, "Then enjoy looking around, third young master. Our people are all over the market, so if you need anything then just call out for us." Respectfully nodding his head, Ziyan pulled Zana and plunged into the horde of people, disappearing from Pei En's sight. "Poli, bring to men and follow third young master. Also, warn the thieves in the market that if any of them have any ideas on third young master or Zana, then they don't need to be in this market anymore." Looking at the disappearing young boy and girl, Pei En turned around and his honest face was replaced by a cunning and capable face. "Yes, Captain," one of the men lowly answered, and with a wave of his hand, him and 2 other men also go into the multitudes of people. "Ha ha, third young master is still so gentle, it allows people to be relaxed around him." Looking at the 3 men mixing in with the crowd, Pei En smiles, but in an instant, the smile turns into a frown and he sighed. "Third young master is such a nice person, it's regretful, huh?" Regretfully shaking his head, Pei En leads his remaining underlings and goes to patrol the streets. Lazily following Ziyan, Zana accidentally glanced behind her and smiled. "Ziyan JJ. Pei En's quite nice," Ziyan answered with a yup and scans towards a nearby stall. His soul perception was far greater than normal people, so he could detect the guards following him. Looking back forward, Ziyan slows down and walks side by side with Zana. Tilting his head, he jokes, 9 Duanche and already able to detect 3 hiding guards. Zana, pretty good. Zana copies Ziyan and cutely shrug her shoulders, bringing out her trump card. Smile, stay silent. Looking at the silent Zana, a smile began to form on his lips. Lightly patting her head, he whispers, "Even though I don't know who you are or where you're from, I do know that you are my sister, and no matter what happens in the future, I will always protect you." Lightly smiling, Ziyan speeds up and breaks out of his line from Zana. Her feet stopping, Zana stared with her beautiful eyes at the back of the young man that just talked with her. After pausing for a while, a smile begins to creep onto her delicate face. Within the crowd, her figure was swaying back and forth, like a lotus, elegant and pretty. "Sister, Zana is a very greedy girl though." Tilting her head, Zana mutters and then quickly catches up to the young man in front of her. Following Ziyan while he examines the stalls by the side, Zana and Ziyan slowly move into the more populated and expensive inner parts of the market. The people that come here to buy and sell usually have decent money or physical power. While Ziyan was engrossed in trying to find a monster core, Zizun, who was bored, walked up to a clean stall and with her pale white hand picks up a light green bracelet. The bracelet wasn't crafted with anything special, but it had a hint of ice silver which made it feel cold to the touch, perfect for hot summer days. In addition, even though the material was quite plain, the craftsmanship wasn't bad. Right when Zana decided to buy the bracelet, she remembered that she had loaned all of her money to Ziyan. Slightly turning around and seeing the busy young man, she could only helplessly shake her head and smile at the old store owner. Putting down the bracelet, she lazily started moving forward. Her calm manner wouldn't let her ask anyone to buy anything for her, even if it was Ziyan. After walking forward for a bit, right when the bored Zana decided to go back to Ziyan, a clear laughter rings from ahead. "Huh, isn't this Miss Zana? Hehe, I wouldn't have thought to find you here, it must be fate." Her thin brow lightly furrowing, Zana tried to find the source of the voice but only saw a group of people. The group was following behind a luxuriously dressed young man. The young man was only 20+ years old and was quite handsome. His face was slightly pale, but his eyes were filled with heat and was staring at the young girl standing in front of him. Within his gaze was also an unrestrained hint of lust. Chapter 12. Stay away from him. Looking at the delighted handsome youth, Zana's slim eyebrows wrinkled. Not paying attention to his call, she turned away. Miss Zana, looking at Zana from the side, the handsome but pale young man became immediately anxious and quickly crossed to block her from the front. Blocked by the youth, Zana stopped her steps. Her pair of long and beautiful eyes were lazily narrowed, staring at him. Yet she did not utter a single word. Miss Zana stared at by pupils that were like water drops, and despite the fact that he was used to flirting with beauties, his breathing became somewhat hurried. His clever tongue had lost all of its use for the moment. "Jialai or young master, if there isn't anything urgent, Please get out the way. I still have to do something. Looking at this somewhat flushed youth, Zana finally spoke. Her soft and young voice made the young man's pale face flush with a sick red. Hey, Miss Zana, have you come to the market to buy something? I'm quite free right now. So why don't we look around the market together? Taking a deep breath within his mind, Giulia's smile was open and gentle. This smile, along with his status and handsomeness, had successfully landed him quite a few girls. Giulia, young master, I already said that I have something to do. Can you move aside? Zana's small mouth curves upward and her voice was smooth without any hint of irritation. Being rejected by Zana, the edges of Giulia's mouth twitched, but he kept his smile and pulled out a bracelet from his pockets. The bracelet was a light blue gold color and was made from blue gold. From the bracelet hanged a smoothed green ball-like monster core. A soft green was emitted from the monster core and scattered its light on the bracelet, giving it a special hue. Looks like this intricate bracelet costs a lot. Hey, since Miss Zana has something to do, then Giulia won't block you anymore. Giulia tightly clutched the bracelet and smiles. This was a bracelet that I just bought in the market. Even though it's not too expensive, it is a level 1 wood attribute monster core which greatly helps in the recovery of doge. Since Miss Zana hasn't become a doge yet, this bracelet is perfect for you. This is just a small gift of mine, so please don't say no. After all, I would lose face in front of my underlings. At the end, Giulia purposefully lowered his voice and the underlings around him, as if it was a play, grinned on cue. Looking at Giulia's actions, Zana's brow lifted. She didn't know how to deal with such a person. Right when she was about to refuse, her sight fell onto the green monster core on the bracelet and remembered how Ziyen was busily trying to find a wood attribute monster core. Her long eyelashes lightly blinked and her impassive face relaxed a bit. Looking at Zana's relaxed face, Giulia's heart flutters happily and quickly pushes the wood attribute bracelet forward. Miss Zana, there's no need to be courteous. Giulia clan and Z clan are both in the top 3 clans of Wutang City, so exchanging little gifts is common. I'll take the bracelet and remove the monster core and give to Ziyen JJ. As for the bracelet, when he's not paying attention, I'll throw it away. With this mischievous thought, Zana didn't hesitate anymore and stretches her hand out, about to take the bracelet. Suddenly a hand grabs her hand and stops her from taking the bracelet. Right when her hand was grabbed, Zana pauses in shock before having the doge in her body flowing in order to protect herself. But right when her hand was about to go free from the grasp, a young male humph made her obediently stop struggling. Looking behind her, Zana saw Ziyen. When her sight moved a bit higher, she saw a harsh young face. Don't you know what he's like? Scowling at Zana, Ziyen criticized himself in his mind. Then he looks up and says, Giulia, young master, your thought is graciously accepted by Zana, but as for the gift, you should take it back. Looking at the destroyed atmosphere, a hint of anger flashed within Giulia's eyes. But, in front of Zana, he tried to keep his gentlemanly air and waxily smiles. Ziyen, young master, I saw that Miss Zana didn't have any jewelry, so I wanted to help her a bit. Do you not want to let her have a few small trinkets to accentuate her beauty? Helplessly sighing, Ziyen glances at the wood attribute bracelet in Giulia's hand and took out another green bracelet and with some frustration, asks, Do you really like bracelets? Here you go, don't take other people's stuff for no reason. I already told you that there is no such thing as a free lunch. The ones who offer free stuff always have a hidden motive. With your innocent look, you may have been sold by someone and still wouldn't know what had happened. Hearing Ziyan's words that were obviously directed at him, Giulia's face becomes cold. But when he saw the bracelet on Ziyan's hand, he couldn't help but laugh. The bracelet in Ziyan's hands, from a material standpoint, couldn't have costed more than 5 gold coins, while his wood attribute bracelet, which had an authentic monster core, cost an entire 1,000 gold coins. The two bracelets, no matter how you look at it, either price or actual usefulness, had a huge difference, and Ziyan's bracelet couldn't even compare to the wood attribute bracelet. So, when Giulia saw Ziyan giving such a poor bracelet to the beautiful Zana, he couldn't help but criticize Ziyan. Ziyan, I know that you don't have a high position in your clan, but why would you give such pitiful thing to Zana? Ignoring Giulia's taunt, Ziyan looked at the young girl who was staring at the bracelet in his hand and hurriedly asked, Do you want it or not? If you don't, then I'll just throw it away. It was only 2 to 3 gold coins. On hearing Ziyan's words, not only did Jialayo start laughing, his underlings also started to laugh at Ziyan with a ridiculing tone. But the ridiculing laugh didn't continue for long before being cut off, as if they had just had their necks cut off. On everyone was a hilariously stunned face. Zana, who had been stunned, responded quickly to Ziyan's words. Her two hands almost instinctively reached out and snatched the bracelet in Ziyan's hand. After getting the bracelet, Zana realized what she had done. Perhaps she had acted a bit too impatient. A light red blush appeared on her delicate face, but Zana wasn't like other people, and after a slight period of embarrassment, she graciously hooked the bracelet onto her white wrist. Raising her head and giving a coy smile, she said, "Thank you, Ziyan JJ." With an ugly face, Jialayo stared at Zana, who was quite intimate with Ziyan. On his face was apparent jealousy, and he said, "Heh, I didn't realize that Miss Zana's preferences were so unique. I guess I've been mistaken." Ziyan glances at Jialayo in front of him, and his gaze landed on the gold star at his chest. He strangely thought, when I saw him last year, he was only 9 Duancha, right? Who would have thought that he would be successful in compressing his Doche cyclone? But, to become a doge at the age of 21, his talent is barely decent. Seeing that Jialayo had no intention of leaving, Ziyan pursed his lips. His wasn't affected by the power and status behind Jialayo, and since the Z clan and Jialai clan didn't have good relations in the first place, there was no need for him to act humble. Stroking his nose, Ziyan lightly said, "Jialayo, young master, your womanizer habits are known by the entire Wutang city. Zana is still young and doesn't have time to play with your flirting games, so hopefully you can go after other girls in the future. Stay away from him." After speaking to Jialayo, Ziyan ignored the green-faced Jialayo and used his age as an advantage to arrogantly speak to Zana. "Okay." Zana's agile eyes blinked and nodded without any hesitation. To her, Jialayo was just a stranger that she saw a couple of times, while Ziyan, for her, was irreplaceable. Since Ziyan told her to stay away from Jialayo, she just stay away from him. The choice wasn't a hard one for Zana. Chapter 13. Black Metal Piece. Seeing Zana nod at Ziyan's words, Jialayo's mouth started twitching. He curled his fists and stared coldly at the calm and impassive young man before him. Jialayo's underlings, seeing that their young master was quite angry, quickly walked forward and surrounded both Ziyan and Zizan, their gazes revealing their bad intentions. Even though it was deep within the market, there were still quite a few people around, and they turned their questioning gazes towards the surrounded group. Ziyan and Jialayo had quite a reputation in Wutang City, Ziyan for his fall from genius to cripple, and Jialayo for his less than honorable encounters with other women. Even though they were infamous, they were still well known within the city. Looking Jialayo's group's movements, Ziyan's brow jumped, and on his young face, a hint of confidence creeped. Lightly turning his head, he whistled towards a spot within the market. Seeing Ziyan's actions, everyone turned their head to the direction in which Ziyan whistled and saw the market's guards furiously coming over under the lead of Payan. With his fellow guards, Payan rushed towards Ziyan, and quickly, the market's guards surrounded Jialayo's underlings, who were surrounding Ziyan and Zizan. "Third young master, anything wrong?" Walking up to Ziyan, Payan swept his glance over Jialayo and then respectfully asked Ziyan. Ziyan lightly smiles and turned to face the green-faced Jialayo. He nonchalantly said, "Jialayo, young master, this market is controlled by Z clan. Are you sure you want to fight here?" Jialayo's eyes revealed his fear for Payan, but he immediately sneered at Ziyan. "Do you only know to rely on your clan? If you are a man, what you want to say is, 'If I am a man, then I would fight you one-on-one.' Right?" Ziyan waved his hand and cut Jialayo off. Jialayo sneered again, and with a hint of challenge, he said, "Yup, are you afraid?" Looking at the arrogant face of Jialayo, Ziyan helplessly sighed and puts his hand up to feel his forehead. Moments later, he raised his head and shrugged his shoulder, and with innocence and naivety, he asked, "Jialayo, young master, I would like to ask, how old are you?" The edge of Jialayo's mouth twitched, and he doesn't respond. "Big guy, you're already 21. How old am I?" 15. You're actually asking a kid that hasn't performed his coming-of-age ritual to fight you. Don't you feel that your request is over the top? Don't you feel embarrassed? Ziyan's innocent appearance was so realistic that Zana beside him couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. Ha ha! Hearing the young man's words, the mercenary and merchant stall owners also let out laughs. Ziyan was right. At his current age, Ziyan could only be considered a kid, but Jialayor would be considered an adult. A challenge of this kind made everyone look down upon Jialayor. The laughter of the crowd was like a bucket of cold water and helped Jialayor regain his calm. From Ziyan's maturity and calmness to his impassive attitude, it was extremely easy for people to forget how old he really was. Therefore, after Ziyan said his age, Jialayor finally remembered that the young man standing in front of him was only 15. Gnashing his teeth, Jialayor looked at the leering guards behind Ziyan and realized that he didn't have any chance of retaliation today. He could only shake his head and coldly say, "One more year and you'll be undergoing the coming-of-age ritual rite. Hehe, I think that someone as crippled as you, once you finish the coming-of-age ritual, will only be sent to some remote and poor village. At that time, you won't even have the power to enter Wutang City. Pretty pitiful." Ziyan lightly smiles and nonchalantly shrugs his shoulders. Jialayor's eyelids flickered. He didn't know why, but whenever he saw the calm face of the young man in front of him, a mysterious rage boiled within him. "You're only a cripple and trying to act like you know everything." Forcefully suppressing his anger, Jialayor let out a cold HMPH and with a wave of his hand, commands his underlings to exit the crowd. "Oh right." His steps stopping, Jialayor seemed to have remembered something and turning back, he said, "Ziyan, young master, I heard that your Z clan had their marriage with the Nalan clan revoked." "Hehe, actually, that isn't unexpected. With your Che talent, you just can't match the Miss Nalan. Ho ho." After saying that, Jialayor left laughing. Ziyan's gaze coldly followed the exit of Jialayor. Tightly holding Zun, who was about to rush out, he quietly said, "He's just a mad dog. If he bites you, why should you bite back?" But he went too far. "We can't just let him off like this." Her eyebrows furrowing, Zun indignantly replied, "There will always be an opportunity." Ziyan smirked and the coldness coming from his voice made Payan shuddered. A lion's bite might not be that scary, but a lion that knows patience is another story, a scary one. "Uncle Payan, sorry for troubling you." Ziyan turned back and smiled gently toward Payan's group. The previously intense atmosphere all of a sudden changed into a light-hearted mood. Impressed by the control over emotions that Ziyan exercised, Payan's smile was reinforced by a sense of respect. Even with Ziyan's lack of talent, Ziyan's future accomplishments probably wouldn't be too shabby with his mental prowess. "Ha ha," third young master's joking. "This is Z clan's territory. We wouldn't allow Jialai clan to do as they please here." Payan smiled and seeing that Ziyan started to look around, he quickly took his leave along with his men. Looking at the exiting Payan and his group, Ziyan turned around and ruffled Zana's hair and said slightly forcefully, "A level 1 monster core made you forget your morals. You know as well as I do what kind of person Jialayor is. The moment you take his stuff, he would definitely ask for favors." Straightening her hair, Zana flipped her hands upwards. "He wanted to give it me. It was free." Ziyan rolled his eyes and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "It isn't like that's something precious. Did you really need to act like that? Don't forget, you're the young genius in Z clan." Zana wrinkles her nose and raised the bracelet on her wrist. She taunted, "So Ziyan JJ has also been noticing Zana?" Ziyan stayed silent and pulling on Zana's hand, they walked towards some stalls deeper in the market. After walking past quite a few stalls, Ziyan's feet finally stopped. He bent down and stared at a green orb that still had a trace of blood on the stall and said, "I finally found it." Moving his hand across the stall, Ziyan's was about to grab the monster core when his hand stiffened. A strange foreboding struck his mind. Licking his lips, Ziyan continued to pick up the monster core, but his gaze, as if by accident, swept across the stall. Moments later, his gaze landed on a piece of black metal that was displayed beside the monster core. The black metal piece seemed extremely old with many spakes of rust and even a couple spots of dirt. It looked as if it had just been excavated. "Hey, Yan brat, buy the black metal piece. It's something good." Right, when Ziyan was confused about why he felt such a strong feeling towards the seemingly worthless metal, Yao Lao's voice sounded in his mind. Chapter 14. Vacuum Hand. Listening to the voice inside his head, Ziyan blinked and secretly nodded. Instead of immediately grabbing the black metal piece, Ziyan gently picked up the green monster core that was still dripping blood, and looking at the shabby-looking mercenary standing behind the stall, he asked cheerfully, "Which magic monster did this monster core comes from?" "Ha ha, the eyes of young master are really good. This is a monster core from a first-level magic monster named Swallowwood Fox. It is a high-quality core. Our sharp-teeth mercenary group waited 3 days and ambushed 5 Swallowwood Foxes before finally obtaining this magic core." Noticing Ziyan's luxurious outfit, the mercenary rapidly advertised his wares. "If this object is to young master's liking, I think 500 gold coins would be a good price. Ha ha, while obtaining this core, we had several brothers who got injured quite heavily." Ziyan slowly wiped the remaining blood off of the magic core, noticing they haven't completely clotted yet. He nodded slightly and glanced towards the 2 golden stars on the chest of the mercenary and commented, "Too expensive. Normally a level 1 magic core's price would only be from 400 to 450 gold coins. Furthermore, even if the Swallowwood Fox is a magic beast, its attack power isn't too high. Are your underlings not doges?" The corner of his mouth slightly jerking, the mercenary laughed dryly. He did not expect the youth standing in front of him to be so knowledgeable about the magic core market, and replied, "470 gold coins then. No more, no less. We have to live by this." Sighing under the mercenary's anxious eyes, Ziyan bent down and randomly grabbed many things from the stall, conveniently including the mysterious metal piece in the mess. Then he said, "470 gold coins for all of these." Looking at the goods on Ziyan's hands, the mercenary let out a relieved sigh, since none of the items in Ziyan's hands were expensive. "All right," cheerfully producing some gold coins, Ziyan did not waste another moment and left immediately. "Huh, brat, to be so cautious in a mundane task of buying things." The elder's taunting voice sounded in Ziyan's head as he turned to leave the shop. "Those bastards are all swindlers. They'll immediately increase the price if you show interest in their wares. I don't want to lose money for something stupid like that." After answering, Ziyan stopped paying attention to the elder inside his ring and leisurely exited the market and returned to the clan with Zana. After parting with Zana, Ziyan impatiently ran back to his room and carefully locked the door. Turning his head and seeing the elder, who left the ring since God knows when, Ziyan brought out the recently purchased herbs and magic core. He hastily asked, "All the required ingredients are here. What do we have to do?" The elder cheerfully laughed and his gaze scanned the ingredients on the table before suddenly asking, "Don't you want to know what that black metal piece is?" Ziyan paused before realizing that the elder was referring to his accidental purchase. He quickly took out the black metal piece and examined it from top to bottom. But after examining it, his brows furrowed and asked, "This, what does it do?" Yao Lao took the black metal piece and laughed. "There seems to be a Do technique inside here. And the creator of this metal piece was probably also an alchemist, because only people that have a strong soul perception can feel the power within this metal piece, Do technique." Ziyan's eyes brightened and he hurriedly asked, "What level is it?" In the Do mainland, the importance of Do techniques isn't lower than Che methods. A strong Do technique would allow one to perform at a level far beyond what they are capable of. For example, a doji being able to fight a doshi even though his doche is at a disadvantage. Do techniques and Che methods are both split into 4 levels of decreasing power: Che, Di, Xuan and Wang. Normally, the Do techniques that are easily accessible are at most high Wang level, and for higher Do techniques, one would have to go to a large clan or faction. Of course, Do mainland is huge, and there are some special circumstances in which the top Do techniques are lost and found by some lucky individual. The black metal piece that Ziyan has right now was probably the lost work of some ancient person. Yao Lao turned the metal plate around and smiled. Vacuum hand. Low Zhuan level. Low Zhuan level. Ziyan's face was filled with happiness. He didn't expect that the trash he purchased would have a Zhuan level Do technique. In his own clan, the Z clan, the highest Do technique was only a middle Zhuan level, and only the clan leader and some elders could learn it. Vacuum hand. If trained to max, it can suck up boulders that are thousands of pounds. Against enemies, it can forcibly suck the blood out of their body. Forcibly suck blood from a body. His face full of surprise, Ziyan swallowed dryly and exclaimed, This is awesome. Once the blood leaves the body, they would die right. Don't be happy yet. This only works if your level is higher than your opponent. If you meet someone stronger than you, they can use the chance to get close to you, and the unlucky would be you. Yao Luo carelessly threw the metal plate to the side. Looks like he doesn't think too highly of the Do technique. Yao Luo was of high status and naturally had high standards, but for Ziyan, this was a high-level Do technique. He immediately happily picked it up and laughed. Even with that, it's better than the Do techniques in the clan. I'll learn this from now on. With your third Duan Che, it would be amazing if you could pull up a tree branch with your vacuum hand and you want to suck the blood out of someone. Shaking his head, Yao Luo heavily criticized Ziyan. Rolling his eyes, Ziyan ignored Yao Luo and smiled while hugging the metal piece. Look at yourself. Having a Lo Xuan Do technique makes you this happy. You're embarrassing me. Helplessly shaking his head, Yao Luo grabbed the monster core on the table and ordered Ziyan, Go get a huge bowl of water. Seeing that Yao Luo was about to start refining the pill, Ziyan hurriedly put away the black metal piece and cheerfully went to prepare. In the calm room, Yao Luo picked up the purple bluegrass with his left hand. Moments later, he lets out a deep breath and a white flame appears in his hand. When the flame appeared, the temperature within the room rose exponentially. Without blinking, Ziyan stared at the white ball of flame. Although he didn't know the process of refining pills by alchemists, to materialize Do Che was an impossible task for even his father. With a calm face, the white fire in Yao Luo's hands expanded and swallowed the purple bluegrass. Within the flame, the purple bluegrass instantly became a green liquid ball. Yao Luo's right hand picked up another stalk of purple bluegrass and threw it into the white fire. After throwing all 3 stalks of purple bluegrass into the fire, the ball of green liquid became visibly bigger. The green liquid slowly shriveled within the fire. The high temperature relentlessly burned the impurities within the green liquid. With the flame, the green liquid became smaller and smaller in volume. After a few seconds, it was only about the size of a thumb. Afterwards, Yao Luo threw the 2 stalks of bone-washing flowers into the flame, and after they finished burning, the remaining liquid mixed with the original green liquid. After that was the refinement of the monster core. The third step took a whole hour, but Yao Luo still seemed full of energy and without any signs of fatigue. After an entire hour, the tough monster core had become a ball of green liquid. The violent energy within the monster core was softened by Yao Luo's magical formula. On his hand, the white flame slowly disappeared. Looking at the green ball floating on top of Yao Luo's hand, Ziyan rubbed his hands together. With his superior soul perception, he could clearly feel the bountiful energy within the energy ball. Teacher, do I just eat it? Ziyan blinked his eyes and asked impatiently. If you want to die, then eat it. With your Che paths, you would become a true cripple within seconds. Giving Ziyan a white eye, Yao Luo flicks the ball and it accurately flew into the bowl of water. Immediately, the bowl of clear water turned to a dark green shade. From now on, you should train in there. With your talent and barring any unforeseen circumstances, you should be able to get to 7 Duan Che within a year. Yao Luo claps the dust off of his hands and lightly smiles towards Ziyan. With obvious happiness, Ziyan hurriedly nodded his head. Oh, I almost forgot. This medicine will only last for 2 months, which means you need to go buy the materials that you got today again every 2 months. Yao Luo revealed a sly smile. Ziyan's happiness disappeared from his face and he nodded his head with reluctance. Damn it, only rich people can afford to use this stuff. Chapter 15. Training. The warm sun filtered through the window and lazily sprayed into the tidy room. Within the room, a young man with a bare upper body was sitting crossed within a wooden bowl. His 2 hands were knit together into a strange symbol. His 2 eyes were shut tightly while his breath was calm but powerful. In the wooden bowl beneath him, a mysterious green liquid was strangely sparkling. As he trained longer, the green liquid within the bowl began to slowly evaporate, giving off a light green stream of air. Stream slowly lifted upwards and squirmed into the young man's nose with his breathing. Once the stream was inside his body, the young man's face became shiny and smooth like white jade. As if he felt the ever-increasing Do Che within his body, the young man's face revealed a light smile. After confirming his success, the young man didn't stop there. He still had his eyes shut tight and kept his hands in the same position. He didn't even budge and maintained his maximally efficient position as he greedily sucked up the energy within the green liquid. The green liquid sticking to the young man's body was slowly absorbed by his skin, strengthening his bones and cleaning his chi paths. Under the young man's restless absorbance, more and more green streams came up from the bowl, and slowly, they became so dense that they covered the young man's naked body in a layer of mist. Under the restless training, the bright sunshine that came in through the window slowly became weaker and the room became a lot cooler. In the wooden bowl, the young man gathered in the final wisps of green air and his eyelashes twitched before opening to reveal two pitch black eyes. Within the pitch black eyes, a white glow passed through, but this time, it had a hint of green. Slowly letting out a breath, the young man quickly stood up and let the cool water droplets flow off of his body. Taking a lazy stretch and feeling the abundant Do Che within his body, the young man muttered, "At this pace, I can probably get to the 5th Duan Che in 2 months." After preparing everything, Ziyin stayed in his room for an entire half-month. In the time he stayed in his room, besides eating and attending bodily functions, he had been training his Che non-stop. Even though training was extremely boring and tiring, it was nothing compared to the taunts and ridicules that Ziyin had endured for the past 3 years. The 3 full years of taunts had taught him how important strength was in this world. Even though the days passed tiresomely, the results of them were pleasing. The effects of Yao Lao's bowl of elixir was much stronger than what Ziyin and even the creator of it, Yao Lao, had thought it would have. Yao Lao had predicted that it would take at least a month for Ziyin to get to 4th Duan Che, but Ziyin only took half that time. At this, even Yao Lao was surprised at the speed and efficiency in which Ziyin trained. Even though Ziyin had done this before, the speed at which he was going right now isn't a bit too incredible. The most important and toughest part about training Do Che is in the basics. The 10 Duan Che would take people 10 to even 20 years. Of course, once a person becomes a doji, then their training speed would increase exponentially. If one can only raise 1 Duan Che in a year before becoming a doji, then that same person could probably go up a couple of stars in a year once after becoming a doji. When the training speed was slanted towards later times, Ziyin's performance in half a month was surprising to say the least. Walking out of the bowl without hesitation, Ziyin looked back at the lighter green liquid in the bowl. The lighter color was definitely due to his training, and he helplessly shook his head while whispering, "Can this sustain for another month and a half?" Wiping off the remaining water droplets, Ziyin randomly put on a fresh suit of clothing and crawled onto his soft bed. After doing so, he reached behind his pillow to take out the pitch black metal piece. The rust on the steel piece had already been wiped off by Ziyin to reveal a smooth and glowing surface. It was quite mysterious. For the past half-month, Ziyin had been intently studying this metal piece that contained a low Zhuan level Do technique whenever he took a break from training. In the half-month, under the instructions of Yao Lao, Ziyin finally had a bit of understanding of the techniques involved. But because of the lack of Do Che, he couldn't use it for anything useful, which made Ziyin a little disappointed. Placing the metal piece between his two palms, Ziyin closed his eyes and used his soul perception to observe the black metal plate. With the calming of Ziyin's breath, the room was once again peaceful. Another long silence passed before Ziyin opened his eyes again and raised his right hand. His right hand was curved into a claw, and his light Do Che, under Ziyin's insistence, quickly went through the few Che and pressure points on his palm to become a pulling force. Pang! The ceramic vase that Ziyin pointed to made a few circles before falling down the tables. And with a clear crash, it shattered into countless pieces. Ha! Even though the Do technique is at the Zhuan level, my Do Che is too low and I can barely use the technique. Seeing the destruction that he had caused, Ziyin whispered to himself, "Looking at the power it has right now, if I want to have enough force to vacuum a person towards me, then I need to be at 7 Duan Che. Whatever, let's go to our clan hall to find some lower level Do techniques. This vacuum hand, it won't be of much use for some time. But since I can train my Do Che again, I don't need to use my foolish method of training that I used before." Sighing again, Ziyan climbed off of his bed and glanced at the motionless black ring before leaving the house. Wincing his eyes and adjusting to the blazing sun, Ziyan carefully closed his door before lazily walking onto the stone path towards the clan's back rooms. To the sides of the stone path were emerald green willows. The bountiful green felt soothing and sharply contrasted with the scorching heat. Turning onto a different path, a young girl's laughter greeted him. Because of the disturbed calm, Ziyan furrowed his brows, and following the source of the laughter, he saw a couple of young girls coming towards him from another path. Crowded by other girls, a pretty girl was laughing. The charming face that she had completely overshadowed the other girls beside her. She was the girl that was second to Zun in the Doche testing, ZMEI. Glancing at the girl that had once stuck to his side calling countless Baojays, a flash of unrestrained mocking went across Ziyan's face. Lightly shaking his head, Ziya retrieved his sight. TL, Baojay is brother not in one's direct family. This is a formal saying compared to Zheizhe, which is more of an familiar saying. When ZMEI reached the road Ziyan was on, Zimei's charming laughter died out as she had seen Ziyan. The sun scattered its light and made the impassive young man with his hands behind his head indescribably attractive. A pair of pretty, large eyes stared at the young man coming closer and trying to distinguish whether there was a light smile or ridicule hanging on the edges of his mouth. ZMEI mentally gravitated towards Ziyan. Suddenly, she felt as if she had lost something. 3 years ago, that young man, on the edge of his mouth, had that intoxicating curve.